So far, software methods have been presented how to optimize the flow within within the factory and within the warehouse. Now I will tell a little bit about how we can verify and how we can check the status of the current factory, because we don't just work with theoretical data for future simulations, but our goal is to primarily optimize what is already inside of the factory. So my part is the data gathering in this case. In short, what do we mean by data acquisition in this case? It is that we track the agents, maybe forklift, maybe a person, maybe any other moving part within the warehouse, and we can so far track them, write you the way they were going, and we can also present you with some rudimentary heat map plus some other activities like how often were they moving and how often were they transporting a pallet also, but that's more for the software side. Now my goal is to tell you what you can expect if you want to proceed with optimization of your logistics, what you can expect to happen in your shop floor in order to get this kind of data. So first, the principle. In order to get the data of movement inside of the factory, we cannot rely on a GPS. That would be quite easy, but that doesn't work indoors inside of the building. So we need to replace the GPS by a certain system. In our case, you can see it in the image to the right. In short, we place the beacons. Those are the little orange boxes around the factory. And what they do, they broadcast a signal every second, let's say, with their unique identifier. And if I go through the factory with a mobile phone or a tablet, I can read all these signals, and each of the signals has a different strength. And therefore, I am able to triangulate my position with some degree of error, like 3 meters usually. When I have all this data in, I can send it to the server basically every second. And that is how I can calculate my position. And then I know how I was moving through the factory. Now, if we look at the beacon, it is basically a small device. It is like the dimensions are like 6 to 3 centimeters, more or less. It is extremely easy to install, so don't worry, it's not wired, it's battery powered, and it's installed via magnets. The reason for this being, with batteries, you have to change them every year, but what you get for that is that you save on all the cabling. This means that when you're installing these little things inside of the factory, you basically are very fast. You don't need to approve any cables within. You don't need to connect it anyhow. You don't need to plan it even. They are just attached to the existing equipment. Sometimes we get questions because they are Bluetooth based. Are these in danger of interfering with other systems? We have them installed in large numbers in the warehouses where they use Bluetooth for internal communication with the scanning of incoming and outgoing material. We have never had a problem. Mainly the reason is because these beacons are incredibly weak. Their signal is as weak as possible so that we can make the best distinction regarding the range. So there is no need to fear that it will somehow interfere with what's going on in your factory. We can, if you're afraid, we can send you a sample and you can test yourself. That's not a problem. Then when you have battery, you can let it in place for about 12 months, then you need to replace it. The battery is quite standard, so it's like €2 a piece, and the replacement goes last time for 30,000 square meters factory, it took about 4 hours, so it's really quick. Then as a tag is standardized name for any device that is being tracked in your factories. In other positioning systems, these can have various forms. But in this system that we are using, we use basically either a smartphone or we can use a tablet. Now, why do we use tags like this? Well, it's quite simple, because all these beacons on your walls, what they do, they broadcast all the time. And you need a device that can take in the Bluetooth signal, and that can then process it and send the information somewhere to the cloud. Now, if you look at all the possible devices, tablets tick all these boxes basically. Plus, if you can, for instance, if you want to guide your forklifts or your people, you can also use the tablet screen, as you see below, to somehow show them what they are supposed to do and present some list of tasks and so on. That is an extra functionality, but it's quite useful for most of the time. You can also use a normal smartphone that fits into your pocket without bothering you very much, so it can be also implemented for the operators and everyone. We can also work with industrial tablets. However, if you look at the cost, you can buy standard consumer tablets for €100. Industrial tablet is like 1,500. So then the question is it really worth it? No matter how big the client is, they always say no. We better replace them time to time rather than spend so much money up front. Now, what does it look like to have such a system installed? Imagine this is a layout of a factory to the right. It is quite big, couple 10,000 square meters. And that factory was installed within basically 2 days. I would say 2 short days. And all the red dots are the beacons that broadcast. And once you have this installed, then any phone that has our app installed can be tracked and seen in the database. So you can track your existing phones. That could be one. You can add more phones or tablets to be tracked, and you can then see what is going on in your production, and then use it as an input data for the model that was presented before, for optimizing your fleet, your ways, your routes, and so on. Now, the issues to expect, there are basically 2 issues that come about all the time. One is connectivity. We can use either Wi-Fi or we can use mobile network. Both of them is fine, but in order to get good data, you need steady connectivity. Otherwise, you'll have gaps in it, and it won't be as efficient as it could be. And the other one, I don't have it written here, but you have to have your employees' consent that their route taken through the plant will be monitored. That is always the job of the factory, but we have to warn that this is needed, because no one can be tracked without his consent, basically. So that's all from me. This is roughly what it looks like to have such a system installed. Talking about the cost, there are 2 ways how to do it. I will be very general, because it always depends on the use case, but as a rule of thumb, you can either have it installed for a couple of months to make it an audit. So then we're talking about, let's say, lesser tens of thousands of euros. And if you want it to stay in and be there all the time, basically forever, then we're talking basically about now we've installed 40,000 square meters for about 60,000 euros. So that's where the costs lie, more or less, but it really depends. It may vary wildly. So don't hesitate to contact us if you would like to optimize your logistical flows in any ways. We can always strike a deal somehow. So that's from my part. Thank you for your attention.